When my son David called me that Tuesday morning, his voice sounded strained. "Mum, I need to talk to you about something serious. Can I come over tonight?" Of course I said yes. I always said yes to David. I spent the entire day cleaning the house, baking his favourite lemon cake, and wondering what could be wrong. By the time he arrived at 6 p.m., I had worked myself into a knot of worry. He sat on my couch, the same couch I'd bought from a second-hand store 30 years ago when his father and I were first married. He looked tired. "Mum, I'm going to be honest with you. Jessica and I are having money problems. Real problems. We might lose the house." My heart dropped. Jessica was his wife of 12 years. They had 2 kids, my grandchildren, Emma, who was 10, and little Luke, who was 7. The thought of them losing their home made my stomach hurt. "How bad is it?" I asked. He ran his hands through his hair. "We need about $30,000 to catch up on the mortgage and some other debts. I know it's a lot. I know you don't have that kind of money just lying around, but you have the house. It's paid off. You could take out a home equity loan." I stared at him. "You want me to put my house up as collateral?" "It's just temporary, Mom. We'll pay you back. I've got this promotion coming up at work. It's basically guaranteed. 6 months, maybe a year at most, and we'll have you paid back in full. I wouldn't ask if I wasn't desperate." I looked at my son, my only child, the boy I'd raised by myself after his father died when David was just 16, the kid I'd worked 2 jobs to put through college, and I said yes. I said yes because that's what mothers do, right? We sacrifice, we help, we put our children first no matter what. 3 weeks later, I signed the papers at the bank. $30,000 borrowed against my house, the house I'd lived in for 35 years, the house I'd finally paid off just 2 years earlier. The loan officer, a middle-aged woman with kind eyes, asked me 3 times if I was sure. "Once you sign this, your house is at risk if the loan isn't repaid. My son will pay it back," I told her. She gave me a look I couldn't quite read. Later, I would understand it was pity. David was so grateful. He hugged me tight and promised he'd start making payments within 3 months. "You're saving our lives, Mum. The kids will still have their home because of you." I felt good. I felt needed. I felt like I was doing the right thing. That was 5 years ago. Let me back up and tell you how I got here. How a 68-year-old woman who worked as a school secretary for 40 years ended up betting her entire future on a son who saw her as a solution instead of a person. My husband Robert died suddenly when David was 16, heart attack at 42. One day he was coaching David's baseball team, the next day he was gone. It destroyed us both. But I had to keep it together. I had a son to raise, bills to pay, a life to keep going. I worked at Lincoln Elementary School during the day and cleaned offices at night. Sometimes I worked weekends doing catering for extra cash. Every penny went toward keeping our small house and saving for David's college. I wanted him to have opportunities I never had. David was a good kid. Really, he was. Smart, funny, good at sports. He got into State University on a partial scholarship. I covered the rest with my savings and some loans I took out in my name. He graduated with a business degree and got a job at a marketing firm in the city. 2 years later, he married Jessica. She came from money. Her parents owned a chain of furniture stores. They had the kind of wedding I couldn't have afforded in 10 lifetimes. I wore a dress from Target and felt out of place the entire day. Jessica was nice enough to me at first. She called me Mom Davis, which I thought was sweet. They bought a house in a fancy neighborhood 40 minutes away. David's job was going well. They had Emma, then Luke. Everything seemed perfect, but I noticed things, little things, like how David stopped calling as often, how visits became shorter and always seemed rushed, how Jessica would make comments like, "Oh, Mom Davis, you should see the houses in our neighborhood. They're nothing like, regular houses." She said it with a smile, but there was something underneath it. When Robert died, he'd had a small life insurance policy. After paying off his medical bills and funeral costs, I had about $40,000 left. I put it in a savings account and pretended it didn't exist. That was my emergency money, my safety net. David knew about it. The first time he asked to borrow money was about a year after they bought the house. "Mum, I need $5,000, just temporarily. There's this investment opportunity at work. If I don't take it, I'll look bad in front of the partners. I'll pay you back in 2 months. I gave him the money. He never paid it back. When I mentioned it 6 months later, he looked confused. "Oh, I thought that was a gift. You know, helping me build my career. I'll get it to you eventually." Eventually never came. Then it was $3,000 for Emma's private school tuition. "The public school in our area isn't great, Mum. We want the best for her." Then $2,000 for Luke's medical bills. Insurance didn't cover everything, you understand. Then $7,000 for their 10th anniversary trip to Hawaii. "Jessica's been so stressed. She needs this. I need this. Our marriage needs this." Each time I gave him the money. Each time there was a promise to pay me back. Each time the promise disappeared like smoke. By the time he asked me to take out the home equity loan, I'd already given him $18,000 from my savings. But I didn't add it up back then. I didn't want to see the total. I didn't want to admit what was happening. After I took out the $30,000 loan, things got worse. David's promised promotion never came. Or maybe it did, and the money went somewhere else. I don't know. What I do know is that he never made a single payment on that loan, not one. Every month, $347 came out of my bank account automatically. My bank account, not his. I started picking up extra work. I tutored kids after school. I did alterations for a local dry cleaner. At 63 years old, I was working harder than I had in my 40s, just to cover a loan that was supposed to help my son. And still, he kept asking, "Mum, can you watch the kids this weekend? We need a break. Always last minute, always expected. Mum, Emma needs a new laptop for school. Can you help out? Maybe 500. Mum, our hot water heater broke. Can you cover it? 2,000 should do it." I said yes to watching the kids. I said no to the laptop. I said no to the hot water heater. And for the first time, I felt David's anger. "Seriously? You can't help us with $2,000. That's pretty selfish, Mum. We're struggling here." Selfish. That word hit me like a slap. I was paying $347 every month on a loan for his house. I'd given him $18,000 in cash over the years. I babysat his kids whenever he needed it, usually with only a few hours' notice. And I was selfish. I started to see things clearly after that, started to see the pattern I'd been ignoring. Jessica posted on Facebook constantly, pictures of their lives, new furniture, dinner at expensive restaurants, a renovated kitchen, designer clothes, Emma at dance class, Luke at soccer camp. Everything looked perfect. And there I was, eating ramen noodles 3 times a week so I could afford the loan payment on their house. Something inside me started to crack. It fully broke on a Saturday in March. I was scrolling through Facebook during my lunch break at the school. I was eating a peanut butter sandwich I'd brought from home because I couldn't afford to buy lunch out anymore. And I saw Jessica's post. It was a photo of their backyard, completely redone. There was a new deck, new furniture, a fire pit, string lights, and a hot tub. An actual hot tub. The caption read, "Finally finished our backyard oasis, worth every penny. So blessed." I stared at that photo for 10 minutes. I zoomed in on the hot tub. That thing cost at least $8,000, probably more. They couldn't help me with the loan payments, but they could afford a hot tub. They were struggling, but they had a backyard oasis. I was eating peanut butter sandwiches so they could sit in a hot tub. Something snapped. I didn't call David. I didn't comment on the post. I just saved the photo to my phone and continued eating my sandwich. But I was different now. Something had shifted. 2 weeks later, David called. "Hey, Mum, I need to ask you something." I knew that tone. That was the tone that came before a request. Jessica's car broke down. We need a new one. Well, new to us. We found a good used SUV for $12,000. Could you help us out? Maybe half? $6,000? I was quiet for a long time, long enough that he said, "Mum, you there?" "I saw your backyard," I said. Silence. "What? The hot tub? The new deck? The fire pit? I saw it on Facebook." More silence. Then, "Oh, yeah, that was a birthday gift from Jessica's parents." "All of it?" "Most of it. We pitched in some." "But Mum, this is different. This is transportation. We need a car for the kids." "How much did you pitch in?" "I don't know, maybe $2,000. What does that have to do with anything?" "You had $2,000 for a hot tub, but you haven't made a single payment on the loan I took out for you. Not one payment, David, not one." "Mum, that's not fair. That loan is for our house, our family's security. The hot tub was for Jessica. She's been depressed. She needed something to make her happy." "And what about me?" I asked. My voice was shaking. "What about making me happy? What about my security? This isn't like you, Mum." "What's going on?" "I can't give you $6,000. I don't have it." "Yes, you do. You're still working. You've got your pension coming. You've got that house. That house has a $30,000 loan on it that I'm paying by myself. We'll pay you back. I keep telling you that. You just need to be patient. It's been 5 years, David, and I'm telling you, things are getting better." My boss mentioned a promotion again, just a few more months. I almost laughed, almost, but it wasn't funny. None of this was funny. "I can't help you with the car," I said. Fine. I guess I know where I stand with you now." He hung up. I sat there holding the phone, my hands shaking. I'd just said no to my son, and instead of understanding, instead of apologizing, instead of acknowledging what I'd been doing for him all these years, he'd made me feel guilty. That night, I couldn't sleep. I got up at 2 a.m. and sat at my kitchen table with a pen and paper. I wrote down every dollar I'd given David in the last 7 years. $5,000 for the investment, $3,000 for private school, $2,000 for medical bills, $7,000 for the Hawaii trip, $30,000 for the home equity loan that I was still paying, plus smaller amounts, $500 here, $800 there. Money for birthdays, Christmas, emergencies that weren't emergencies. The total was $52,000. $52,000. I stared at that number until it blurred. That was more than I'd made in a year when David was growing up. That was my entire life savings, plus a loan I'd be paying off until I was 73. And what did I have to show for it? A son who called me selfish when I said no. I started crying. Not quiet tears, but big, ugly sobs that shook my whole body. I cried for the years I'd worked myself to exhaustion. I cried for the future I'd gambled away. I cried for the woman I'd been, the one who thought love meant giving until there was nothing left. When I finally stopped crying, I was empty, but I was also clear. The next morning, I called the bank. "I need to speak to someone about my home equity loan," I said. They connected me with a loan officer. Not the same woman who'd given me that pitying look, but someone new. A man named Thomas with a professional voice. "How can I help you?" "My son was supposed to be making payments on this loan." "He hasn't made any. I'm 68 years old and I'm paying it alone. I need to know what my options are." There was a pause. "Let me pull up your account." Computer keys clicking. Then, "Okay, I see you've been making regular payments. The loan is current. In terms of options, you could try to refinance to lower your monthly payment, or you could pay it off early if you have the funds." "I don't have the funds. That's the problem." "Is your son on the loan?" "No, it's just me." "Then legally, you're the only one responsible. If he agreed to help you pay it, that was a personal arrangement between you. The bank only sees you as the borrower. Of course, it was all on me." "What happens if I can't pay?" Another pause, longer this time. "The loan is secured by your home. If you defaulted, the bank would eventually foreclose. I could lose my house. The house Robert and I had bought when David was a baby. The house where I'd raised my son. The house where every room held memories. I could lose all of it because David needed money for his backyard oasis. Thank you, I said quietly and hung up. I sat in my car in the bank parking lot and made a decision. I wasn't going to lose my house. I wasn't going to work until I died paying off David's debts. I wasn't going to be the mother who gave everything and ended up with nothing. I drove straight to my boss's office at the school. Carol, I need to talk to you about my hours. I need more, whatever you have. Summer school, after-school programs, anything. Carol looked at me with concern. Helen, you're already working full-time. You should be thinking about slowing down, not taking on more. I need the money. She didn't ask why. Maybe she could see it in my face. Okay, I'll see what I can do. I picked up weekend shifts at the dry cleaner. I started selling things I didn't need. Old furniture, books, kitchen items I never used. Every extra dollar went toward that loan. Not the minimum payment, extra payments, principal payments. I stopped going to David's house, stopped offering to babysit, stopped being available whenever he needed something. At first, he didn't notice. Or if he did, he didn't say anything. But then his birthday came around. I sent a card. No cash, no check. Just a card with happy birthday written inside. He called. Did you forget to put money in my card? No. Oh, okay, that's different. I can't afford to give you money anymore, David. It's my birthday, Mom. It's tradition. The tradition is ending. Silence. Then, is this about the car thing? Are you punishing me? I'm protecting myself. From what? From me? I'm your son. And I'm your mother, not your bank. He hung up again. Emma's birthday was 2 months later. Again, I sent a card, no money. David didn't call this time. Jessica did. Mom Davis, Emma was really disappointed that you didn't send anything for her birthday. I sent a card. You know what I mean. Usually you send money. She was counting on it. She's 10 years old, Jessica. She shouldn't be counting on her grandmother's money. Well, that's a pretty selfish attitude. She's your granddaughter. There was that word again. Selfish. Tell me something, Jessica. How much did that hot tub cost? What? The hot tub in your backyard. How much? I don't see how that's relevant. $12,000. I looked it up. That's the average cost for the model you have. You spent $12,000 on a hot tub while I'm working weekends at age 68 to pay off a loan for your house. And I'm selfish because I sent my granddaughter a birthday card instead of cash. She hung up without another word. I knew I'd crossed a line. I knew things were changing, but I couldn't stop. For the first time in decades, I was choosing myself. 3 months went by with no contact from David, no calls, no texts, no Facebook messages. It was like I didn't exist. At first it hurt, then it made me angry, then finally it made me see the truth. I'd been paying for my relationship with my son. Every dollar I'd given him was a payment to stay in his life, and now that the bank was closed, he was gone. My co-worker at the school, Maria, noticed I wasn't myself. What's going on, Helen? You seem different. We were in the break room, just the two of us, and suddenly I was telling her everything. The loans, the money, the hot tub, the silence. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she reached across the table and took my hand. My daughter did the same thing to me, she said quietly. For years, I gave her everything. My savings, my time, my energy. And when I finally had nothing left to give, she disappeared. I haven't seen her in 4 years. 4 years, my voice cracked. 4 years. And you know what? I'm okay. It hurt like hell at first, but I'm okay now. I have friends. I have a life. I have peace. You can't buy love, Helen. If it requires payment, it's not love. Those words stayed with me. That weekend, Maria invited me to her book club. It's just a bunch of us older ladies drinking wine and pretending we read the book, she said with a smile. You'd fit right in. I went, and she was right. There were 6 women, all between 60 and 75. We did talk about the book a little, but mostly we talked about our lives, our jobs, our hobbies, our families. One woman, Patricia, mentioned her son hadn't called her in months. I finally realized I was always the one reaching out. So I stopped. That was 8 months ago. Haven't heard a word. Do you regret it? I asked. She thought about it. Sometimes. But mostly no. I was exhausting myself trying to maintain a relationship he didn't value. Now I'm putting that energy into things that actually matter. I joined the book club, started going every week. These women became my friends, real friends, not people who only contacted me when they needed something. I was working a lot, but I was also living. I started taking walks in the morning before work. I planted flowers in my small yard. I bought myself books instead of buying things for David's kids. Small pleasures, but they were mine. 10 months after my last conversation with David, he called. Mum, we need to talk. About what? About this situation between us. You've been really cold lately. The kids miss you. I miss you. You haven't called me in 10 months, David. Well, you made it pretty clear you didn't want to help us anymore. I made it clear I couldn't afford to keep giving you money. That's different. Look, I'm calling because I want to work this out. You're my mum. We're family. Family forgives each other. There it was. The manipulation I'd been blind to for years. What exactly am I forgiving you for? I asked. What? You said family forgives each other. What are you asking forgiveness for? Silence. I mean, for the tension, for the misunderstanding. There's no misunderstanding, David. You used me like an ATM for years. You took $52,000 from me and never paid back a cent. You stopped calling when I couldn't give you more money. Those are facts, not misunderstandings. 52,000? That's not accurate. I have it written down. Every dollar, every date, it's completely accurate. More silence. Then his voice changed, got harder. You know what? I called to make peace, but clearly you'd rather keep score than have a relationship with your son. That says a lot about you. It says I finally learned to protect myself. From your own family. Yes. He hung up. I expected to cry. Instead, I felt relief. 2 months later, Emma called me. Not David, not Jessica. Emma herself. Grandma, it's Emma. Hi, sweetheart, how are you? I'm okay. I just wanted to talk to you. I miss you. My heart squeezed. I miss you too. Dad said you don't want to see us anymore, that you're mad at him about money. I closed my eyes. Of course he did. Of course he made me the villain. Emma, I'm not mad at you or your brother. I love you both very much. Then why don't you come over anymore? How do you explain to a 12-year-old that her father is using her as a weapon, that he's trying to make his mother feel guilty for not funding his lifestyle? It's complicated, honey. Sometimes adults have disagreements about things. About money, about respect, about being treated kindly. She was quiet for a moment. Dad says you have a lot of money but won't share it. There it was, poisoning his own daughter against me. Emma, I worked very hard for the money I have, and I've shared a lot of it with your dad over the years. Now I need to take care of myself. Do you understand? I think so. Are you okay, Grandma? You sound sad. I'm getting better, sweetheart. I'm learning to be okay. We talked for a few more minutes. She told me about school, about her friends, about a boy she liked. Normal 12-year-old stuff. It was the most real conversation I'd had with her in years. When we hung up, I cried. But they weren't bad tears. They were mixed-up tears. Sad and grateful at the same time. I kept working, kept paying down that loan, kept building my new life. Carol at school pulled me aside one day. Helen, I've been watching you this past year. You're different, lighter somehow. I stopped carrying weight that wasn't mine, I said. She nodded like she understood exactly what I meant. By the time I turned 69, I'd paid off half of the home equity loan. I'd done it by working extra shifts, selling things, and living on almost nothing. But I'd done it. My house was closer to being truly mine again. David reached out once more, about a year after Emma's call. This time it was an email. Mum, I know things have been strained between us. Jessica thinks we should try family therapy. Would you be willing to come? I read that email 5 times. Part of me wanted to say yes, wanted to hope that maybe he'd finally understood. Maybe he was ready to take responsibility. But another part of me, the part that had learned the hard way, knew better. I replied, "David, I'm willing to have a relationship with you based on mutual respect and honesty. If you're ready for that, we can talk. But I'm not interested in therapy where I'm painted as the problem because I stopped funding your life. The ball is in your court." He never replied. Another year passed. I turned 70. My book club friends threw me a party. Maria made a cake. Patricia brought champagne. We ate and drank and laughed, and I realized something. I was happy. Not the fake happy I'd been when I was giving David everything, real happy. The kind that comes from living authentically, even when it's hard. I'd paid off more of the loan, only $8,000 left. I'd calculated that by 72, it would be gone completely. My house would be mine again. I had friends, I had hobbies. I'd started volunteering at the library on weekends. I was living a life that was mine, not one spent in service to someone who didn't appreciate it. Luke called me on my 71st birthday. He was 14 now. His voice had changed. "Grandma?" "It's Luke." "Luke? Hi, honey, how are you?" "I'm good. I wanted to call. Emma told me you guys talked a few years ago. I wanted to talk too." We ended up talking for an hour. He told me about high school, about wanting to join the debate team, about struggling with math. Normal stuff. Grandson and grandmother stuff. "Can I ask you something, Grandma?" "Of course." "Did Dad really borrow a lot of money from you?" I was quiet for a moment. "Yes." "And he didn't pay it back?" "No." "That's not cool. I've been learning about personal finance in school. My teacher says if you borrow money, you have to pay it back. It's about integrity, out of the mouths of 14-year-olds. Your teacher is right. "I'm sorry he did that to you." Those words. From my grandson. The apology I'd never gotten from my son. "Thank you, Luke." That means a lot. We started talking regularly after that, once every few weeks, always initiated by him, never through his parents. Emma started calling too. Not often, but sometimes. They were figuring it out, figuring out that they could have a relationship with me independent of their parents. And I was grateful. I still haven't heard from David. It's been almost 3 years since that email. Jessica unfriended me on Facebook. I don't know if David told her to or if she did it on her own. It doesn't matter. Last month I made my final payment on the home equity loan, $30,000 paid off. It took me 6 years. 6 years of working extra shifts, saying no to things I wanted, living as cheaply as possible. But I did it. My house is mine again, all mine. I celebrated by taking myself out to dinner, a nice restaurant. I ordered the steak, I had wine, I had dessert, and I enjoyed every single bite because I'd earned it. The waitress asked if I was celebrating something. "Yes," I said. "I'm celebrating freedom." She smiled like she didn't quite understand, but that was okay. I understood. I'm 71 now. I've started thinking about retirement, really retiring, not working until I die to pay off someone else's debt. Maria asked me the other day if I regret any of it. The money, the loans, the broken relationship with David. "I regret not seeing it sooner," I said. "I regret letting it go on as long as I did. But I don't regret stopping. That saved my life." "Do you think he'll ever apologize?" "No, and I've made peace with that. Because here's what I've learned. You can't force someone to see your worth. You can't make someone value you. All you can do is value yourself enough to walk away when they don't. David taught me something important, even if he didn't mean to. He taught me that blood doesn't guarantee love, that being family doesn't give someone the right to use you, that sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself is set a boundary and hold it, even when it costs you a relationship. I lost my son, but I found myself, and honestly, that's the better deal. My house is paid off. I have friends who actually care about me. I'm building relationships with my grandkids based on respect, not money. I volunteer, I read, I laugh, I live. This isn't the life I planned. I thought I'd grow old with David in my life, thought I'd be the grandmother who got invited to every birthday party and holiday. But that grandmother was being purchased with money she couldn't afford to spend. And that's not love. That's not family. That's a transaction. Real family shows up without a price tag. Real family doesn't disappear when the money runs out. Real family respects you enough to be honest. I didn't have that with David, and accepting that was the hardest and most freeing thing I've ever done. So to anyone out there who's feeling guilty for saying no, for setting boundaries, for choosing yourself, don't. Your life matters. Your security matters. Your peace matters. And if someone only wants you in their life when you can give them something, then they don't actually want you. They want what you can do for them. It took me almost 70 years to learn that lesson. I hope you learn it faster than I did. Because here's the truth nobody tells you. Sometimes love means letting go. Sometimes protecting yourself means disappointing others. Sometimes the most important person to save is yourself. I saved myself. And at 71, for the first time in decades, I'm free. That's my story. That's how I went from being my son's ATM to being my own person. How I went from drowning in debt and desperation to standing on solid ground. Was it worth it? Every single penny, every single tear, every single hard decision. Because I'm still here. I'm still standing. I'm still myself. And that, more than anything else, is priceless. Did this story resonate with you? Have you faced similar challenges with family and boundaries? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. And if this helped you in any way, consider it my gift to you, the wisdom I paid dearly to learn, offered freely so maybe you won't have to pay the same price.